Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining this episode of the PR Bunker podcast. It's been a little bit, but I'm glad I'm back here with Jeff Marks today, who will tell his very unique story about his nonprofit. You're up in Maine. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes, we're based out of Portland.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you being here. As you all know, the PR Bunker podcast really hopes to shine the light on incredible stories of people, organizations, making change and impacting the community in some way, shape, or form through their nonprofit, through their work in communications. And Jeff and I connected through email and then social media, had a couple conversations, and his story is pretty unique, just like mine. As at one point I worked for a journal, I was a journalist, and then I went to the dark side. Jeff has a bit of a yin and yang of that story, but currently doing some fascinating, incredible work in the space that is much needed. So Jeff, I can't thank you enough for being here with the PR Bunker.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate the invitation and looking forward.
Well, let's get into it, man. Tell us about the nonprofit. What do you do?
So I'm executive director of Climate Work Maine, and the organization started, the concept came up during the pandemic. We got a bunch of business leaders in Maine together. They all agreed that the pandemic was a bit of a dress rehearsal for what's coming on climate. It was disruptive to the economy. It was disruptive to people. And with the climate crisis ahead of us and already occurring in a lot of places, we thought, well, who is best equipped to deal with this problem? And we all decided, the business community, working together on climate solutions and helping to reduce emissions, but also make some money along the way. So there are challenges, but we see it also as an opportunity to, create new companies, to make companies that are existing better and more sustainable, and really prepare us for a carbon-constrained, more sustainable economy down the line.
That's fantastic. Most people I interview for this podcast, we don't end up in a place and originally thought we'd end up here. Our journeys professionally are just this wandering path through the woods. And just like myself, as a former journalist, thought I was going to change the world putting pen to paper. But clearly, I'm not a journalist anymore, in public relations and marketing, still telling stories, but in a different way. And your story is just as unique, if not more unique. Tell us, from your early days to now, clearly your journey, it wasn't like this all day long. This concept was born relatively recently, but tell us a little bit about the journey to get here.
Yeah, I've been working with businesses for 25 plus years now on energy and environmental issues. Most of my professional life was spent in Washington, D.C. I was a corporate lobbyist lawyer there, which, people hear that and their opinion of me kind of sinks a notch. But then I give them the kicker and said, I did their environmental lobbying. So their opinions of me got much worse. So I was voted by a coalition of environmental groups as Clean Air Villain of the Year twice while I was in DC. And I think a lot of that was because we were just so reactive. Any clean air, clean water, toxic release, endangered species, any mandate that came up that put a requirement on the business community to do something, the first thing a lot of companies thought of was, okay, how is this going to affect our bottom line? So we were very reactive and fought just about every environmental energy regulation out there. I was actually recruited by a Fortune 50 company on the cutting edge of energy, aerospace, buildings. They built everything from Black Hawk helicopters to air conditioners to elevators. And they brought me in, this was 20 years ago, to create their first climate plan for the corporation and for each of the business units that came around. And that took a lot, that changed my whole thinking from being very reactive to what's coming at us to being very proactive, involving everybody from environmental health and safety to corporate to scientists and researchers, and bring them all together to figure out how can we as a company do better, reduce our emissions, provide value to our customers and stakeholders, but also do good in the world as well. So that kind of changed my whole way of thinking. And I like to think that I've evolved quite a bit. And now with this new organization, Climate Work Maine, we're all about being proactive, coming together as companies and figuring out what is probably the defining issue of our time, and that's the climate crisis.
It's incredible. I think the my switch from being a journalist and being objective with content and going into PR to being, subjective and managing. So it's sort of the flip here. And I had a difficult transition because I'm so used to covering stories as face value, then going to the PR side, like you've got to spin this a little bit. So, I love your transition. What were the challenges for you professionally going from somebody who's in that day-to-day trench of DC, which is a whole different beast. If you've never worked in DC before or DC, it's just a whole different environment. Going from that to what you are now, I mean, it's literally yin and yang. What was that transition for you like personally?
Once I was able to see the significant connection between environmental improvement and economic prosperity, it came to me like that. It was an easy transition. Not, when you're in the position of fighting anything and everything that's coming at you and then going into it's very every day you're waking up, and when you're reactive it tends to be negative to your professional and personal life. So being able to think ahead and think about, "Hey, what can we do to reduce pollution and save energy and reduce our water use and recycle more and take care of our waste stream and work with so many innovative, interesting people and companies to do this." It just puts your mind in a different kind of balance with the world, and you just think more clearly. Things are easier, and you wake up thinking, okay, how can I make this world better, but also help my companies make money along.
That's great. Now, talk to us about what that process is. So, I'm company ABC, couple thousand employees, realize that my carbon footprint is not where it should be, and I need some help. Clearly, the organization provides those frameworks, but just kind of walk us through. If you are a company out there listening to this conversation, realizing you probably could do better, what would an engagement with somebody like you and your organization look like?
Well, we see ourselves first and foremost as a network, and getting plugged into a network can be very important no matter what you're looking for. A lot of companies, especially the larger companies, are already, they have a sustainability director in place. They're doing something. They have a strategy where they're working internally to reduce their emissions, and they have a pretty good handle on what they're doing. Those companies like to come in and promote what they're doing. So we, as a network, can help spread the word. Company A is reducing their emissions by X amount, and it's creating Y in profit for the company. Having those types of case studies and successes out there make it easy for us to promote what those companies are doing. Being in Maine, though, we're a 99% small business state. So most companies do not have an expert on staff doing sustainability. So by connecting into this network, they have access to the expertise of some of those larger, more established companies that are already doing something, and they can tap into that knowledge and expertise and hopefully take those ideas and innovations and bring them back to their own companies in some way. So I always start with that. We're a network, we make connections, and we help companies access the resources that they need to grow and succeed, but also do it in a more sustainable.
That's
So
great.
those are the conversations that we begin with. What are your priorities? What are you looking to do? And is there something that Climate Work Maine can help you with or connect you with in order to meet those priorities?
Good stuff. Now, talk about challenges. I mean, every nonprofit, regardless of what sort of lane you're in, is having challenges these days, both financially and keeping the attention of those that you want to engage. What are the some of the challenges you face as an organization, and what is your community doing to sort of kind of work around them or sort of combat them in some way, shape, or form?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you the most immediate challenge, and it's something that I think everybody's aware of. The focus on climate has changed considerably in Washington, D.C., and on the federal level. We went from the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed under the Biden administration, which was the largest ever federal investment in climate and clean energy programs. We went from that to an administration that is not only, you know, taking that away as a priority, but actively adversarial when it comes to climate issues. It appears that anything with climate in the name could be a target, which is too bad because as an organization, we're talking about climate change as an environmental issue, but it's also a financial, it's an economic issue. And no matter what policy is happening in DC, the world is going to move on. It's going to move toward cleaner energy, more efficiency, and increased sustainability. And a lot of those market drivers on the global level will force us to continue to consider climate and sustainability in our business decisions. So it's a bit of a challenge with that abrupt change on the federal level, but we are looking at it as, whatever happens within this administration, and every administration has different priorities and outlooks. That's just the way it is. No matter what happens, we know climate change is happening. We know we need to deal with it. And as a state, I'm hoping our organization can help the businesses, nonprofits, and the government folks here keep a laser like focused on climate so that when we come out of this 4 years of climate adversarial positions, we're in a position where we might have a competitive edge over others and are able to just pick up where we left off and continue to be more sustainable and do that in an economically cost effective way.
It's great. How about I love the fact that you brought up small business owners, which is basically the lifeblood of the economy now these days. Businesses are starting all day long. What kind of advice would you, provide to somebody who's just getting going in the small business space, whether it be a retail shop, they're in, any industry? I mean, we all have an impact on the climate. So, what's your advice for those small business owners as they scale, the things they should be thinking about to one, hopefully they're growing in our driving revenue, but at the same time being environmentally conscious. What are those things that you typically in your community would advise these small businesses to think about?
Yeah, we would advise them just to get engaged in some way, and they don't have to have an expert or a full-time position on their staff. Just have a member of your team kind of plug in and engage with businesses and communities on these issues. Keep up to date on what's going on. You're not going to be able to do everything as a small business. You're not going to be able to install the most stringent pollution control equipment possible, or put solar up on your roof, or cut your energy use down to a point where it's much more affordable. But you might be able to do one thing, or you might be able to do two things. So we tried to give them pragmatic advice and guidance on what they might be able to do, what those one or two things might be. And to do that, though, they need to be a little proactive. Pick a person on your team, get them connected into organizations like ours, but there are others out there working on these issues, and just strengthen your partnerships with organizations and businesses that are already doing something, because you might not have to spend a lot of money. You might not have to lay off any workers to do this. You might find something that you know, helps your business become more sustainable, but that in turn helps your workers and your communities as well. And it might be more affordable than you think. So be aware, be engaged, and take it seriously.
It's good advice. Leads me to my next question because I think, like AI, technology, climate is a bit of a noisy space, right? There's a lot of chatter and narrative out there about it. When you think about how you communicate your value prop to the community, whether it's locally, nationally. And clearly, I'm in communications. This is why the PR Bunker started. What are you doing to get your story out? I mean, what are the things that have been successful for you from a communications perspective, whether it be going back old school, like having one-on-one conversations like your lobbying days, or what are the things that you've applied with your nonprofit to communicate the story and get people engaged?
Yeah, we're doing a few different things, but just to start, like I said right at the outset, climate change is a massive issue and it has tentacles that go into every sector of the economy in some way. It's not just about emissions from your car or from your building or from the electricity grid. It has economic development implications. It has effects on the workforce. Right now, we don't have the workforce that's necessary to do actually a lot of the work that energy companies are looking to do as far as solar and wind and those types of things. Affordable housing, that's a big issue. At some point, especially in states like Maine and others throughout New England, we're going to have to deal with this massive climate migration issue. People are going to be wanting to leave heat waves and floods and droughts and all of the billion-dollar disasters that are happening right now around the country. They're going to want to go somewhere that type of impact is lessened, and Maine is going to be one of those locations. So how do we deal with that influx of people, and how do we prepare businesses and communities in the state for more people coming in? And one of the top things that will come up is affordable housing. How do we provide enough affordable housing for people to come here? And then there's the electricity grid and getting clean energy from point A to point B. Yeah, we're going to have to build infrastructure. We're going to have to build lines. We can't have that not in my backyard NIMBY attitude on every energy project that comes up. So we're going to have to deal with that. So there's a lot that goes into climate. It's not just carbon emissions out the tailpipe of your car. It's a lot of different things. So spinning back around to your question, what are we doing? We're trying to reach businesses in a lot of different ways. One way is we've started a summit that we've had on an annual basis for the first 3 years since our inception. It's been the Summit on Maine's Economy and Climate Change. It's a one-day, one-stop shop for people to come together, network, learn about some climate topics, showcase what their companies are doing, connect with others. And it's just a full day of experts and networking and people grabbing a beer at the end of the day and having more informal discussions. We've also started a fall webinar series, which is very information focused. How do you develop a sustainability plan for your company, whether you're a Fortune 500 company, global manufacturer, or a mom and pop small business? How do you develop that plan and start to implement it? How do you access financial incentives and resources that might help you become more energy efficient? How do you tell your story about your company and the products and services that you provide and sell, and hopefully do that in a sustainability way? So those webinars have been very popular and they're open to everybody. And so far we've been able to keep them free. So just to get more people through the door. But the third thing that we're doing, which is interesting, we launched a sustainability council last year. And this is the opportunity. It's not the big summit. It's not the virtual webinar. It's small, intimate gatherings where company sustainability directors as well as influencers can just come in and share best practices. What's working at company A that can be transitioned over to company B and be more cost effective? And I'll give an example. We had a In one of our first meetings, we had a large construction firm who learned something from a microbrewery that they were able to take back and implement and incorporate into their own operations to make it more sustainable and more economically cost effective. So those are small meetings that we have every couple of months. We're trying to figure out how to create some connective tissue between those meetings so that those conversations are ongoing. But it's just another opportunity for businesses to come together and get some good ideas that might help them save money and um, reduce waste.
So if you think about bringing people together in the way you are through those webinars, it's about conversations, it's about ideas, it's about taking the developer and the brewer, no commonalities other than maybe they'd have the brewery in their building, but learning from them and applying those techniques. I probably know the answer to this next question, but my next question is really about what drives you to do this? What do you love about the work? Because clearly you could have been a lobbyist forever because that job is never done. And glad you've pivoted this way. But what drives you? What fuels the soul for you to do this work?
Yeah, my move from Washington, D.C. to Portland, Maine, I took a significant pay cut. And that wasn't as terrible as it sounds because the quality of life here in Maine and throughout New England is just, it's fantastic. Good people, mountains, forest, ocean close by, and you can just see it around you. I grew up in a small town in northern Maine in the middle of the woods. It was an old paper mill town. Of course, that mill is long gone, and that town has gone through a lot of economic upheaval over the past couple of decades. But you go up there and you look around and you breathe the clean air and you see the clean water, just the natural resources and wildlife around you. I hate to, that sounds like something everybody might say, but it's just that quality of life and the natural resources here. You just want to find some way to preserve it and conserve it. And, uh, with my background in public policy and government relations and working with businesses, because at the end of the day, businesses kind of got us to where we are now with the climate crisis over the industrial revolution and the years since. Businesses are going to be the one to confront the crisis and come up with the solution. So since that's my expertise and background, if I can apply it to this little slice of heaven that we have up in Maine, I'm going to go for it.
Love that. And if anybody listening has never been to Maine, it's great summertime, wintertime, in between, falls, early spring, plenty of hiking trails. You can go to the ocean, literally, great waves. You can also go to nice lakes that are super quaint. There's camping opportunities. I mean, there's tons of things to do up in that area, like downtown Kennebunkport or Gunquit. You go even further north towards Bangor. I mean, it's just a wonderful state that you can explore in a number of ways. As a native New England, we have a family home up that way anyways, which is just a fantastic place to visit. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now tell me
Yeah,
what's
and just
next.
the access to the rest of New England. New
You
England's a
agreed.
special place, and it's not
Fantastic.
just Maine.
Yep, agreed. And by the way, fantastic lobster rolls. I'm a big lobster roll snob, and if I have any lobster rolls outside of New England, one, but if they're in Maine, they're just something different. They're just a little bit different in Maine, which it just seems like they literally came off the ocean, onto the table, onto your roll, and into your mouth. They're fantastic. As long as they're caught sustainably and everything is done right and the fishermen are following the right protocols, so we can make sure we check that box. But exciting work. I'm glad you made the pivot, right? It's because you are doing your job to help your little slice of pie in heaven up there in Maine. What's next? I mean, this again, this is a topic that you're going to be continue to tackle, but for your organization specifically, what's next for you? What's next for the organization, and how can people get involved?
When we created this organization, we looked around and there are no business organizations on a state basis who are dedicated to climate solutions. So with everything that's going on in Washington and the world, I speak often with an old colleague of mine in DC. She's working with Fortune 500 companies on climate issues. So the GEs of the world, the General Motors, the big companies on climate issues. She tells me if you can create this model in the state of Maine, replicate it and take it into other states, That's what's going to move the needle on the federal level. Because once policymakers start to see that businesses are more and more supporting climate action, and that's not just taking place in blue states, it's starting to trickle into red states as well. That's what's going to move things, hopefully, in Washington, D.C. So that's really my long-term goal. Let's do what we can do in Maine. Let's make Maine a leader, and then let's go out on the road and show everybody that we can do this, whether they're located in Louisiana or California or North Dakota.
Love that. It's just a different form of lobbying, right? Now you're on the proactive side and trying to move this mission forward and carry that flag, which I love. It's fantastic. So where can people find out more about you and the organization?
ClimateWorkMaine.org is a place to go just for general information, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm Jeff at ClimateWorkMaine. Happy to talk to anybody about the work that we're doing and what we might be able to do to provide value to not just businesses, but other nonprofit organizations and policymakers as well.
That's great, Jeff. Well, I appreciate you being here in the PR Bunker. Love the story, love the transition, love your passion, love the work. Congratulations, and whatever we can do here at the Bunker and elsewhere to make this all happen. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the PR Bunker. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you were looking for this episode or other episodes, you can find the PR Bunker podcast on any of the platforms where you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more. You can also visit www.prbunker.com and check out other resources, blog posts, and links to our podcast if you're so well inclined. Feel free to subscribe, invite people to attend. If you're looking to have your clients, or if you think you have a good story to tell for the PR Bunker podcast and our audience, please reach out to me at don@prbunker.com or go to prbunker.com, and there's a form there you can fill out and suggest some folks to interview, or if you'd like to be a guest as well. So again, thanks for tuning into the PR Bunker podcast. Until next time.